Hello everyone! For today's warm-up, you're going to need to use the Notes app on your iPad. The icon looks like this. When you open it up, you'll need to make sure that you're using the pencil mode or the drawing mode rather than the typing mode. And you just click this button right here. Now, using any colour or any tool, we're going to have a turn at each of our fingers, drawing a circle in each direction. So I'm going to begin with my index finger on my right hand. And I'm drawing a clockwise circle, and I trace back for an anti-clockwise circle. Then I'm going to use my middle finger clockwise and anti-clockwise. My ring finger clockwise and anti-clockwise. My pinky clockwise and anti-clockwise, and then my thumb clockwise and anti-clockwise. Then I'm going to swap over to the other side. So I'll start with my index finger again, clockwise and anti-clockwise. You can see my left side isn't my strong side. Moving on to my middle finger, my ring finger, my pinky on the left, and my thumb. Today we are concentrating on lowercase letters B and P, which both use a downstroke and an oval shape. As always, we expect to see half a page of neat writing where your letters are all a consistent shape and size. Remember that means they all look the same and aren't too big for your lines. Today for our warm-up, we're going to begin with the hash symbol. This symbol has lots of names and a few different uses, but we most often now see it used on the internet. This symbol is the same as our body letters, so we're going to be working in between the two dotted lines. I'm going to begin with 2 sloping downstrokes, and then I'm going to work, remember, in between those lines to do 2 horizontal lines to finish my hash symbol. Now, that one was a little bit wide perhaps. I want to try and make sure that there's an even distance between each of those sets of lines, so it all looks nice and even. 2 downstrokes, 2 horizontal lines. Keep going to the end of the line. Let's begin by looking at the letter B. B is a tall letter, so it begins right up the top, and we're going to go straight down with our sloping downstroke. The pencil traces back the way it came to go up and around to finish that letter B. And a little bit like some of the other letters that we've made, say like the letter A, we're looking for wedge shapes in here and a little one in here. If you're following along from stage 2 or stage 3, B is a letter that never joins. So everyone will be working on this letter in the same way, with a sloping downstroke, retracing back the way that you came to finish off the letter. So let's begin with our row of letter B's, starting up on the solid line or your top line, coming down with your downstroke up to the dotted line and around. Let's go again, leaving a space in between, downstroke up and around. Remembering that your pencil never lifts off the page all the way. Also remembering for our older students that this letter never joins. Just check in, make sure that each of the oval parts of your letters are going up here to that dotted line and right around to the bottom line. Finish off the row. Remember to pause the video whenever you need. Now let's have a think about the letter P. It's a tail letter, so it's going to start in the middle and go down underneath your lines. But we begin in much the same way as the letter B. We go straight down for our downstroke, then our pencil traces back, goes around clockwise to make that oval. So I'll try again, changing colours so you can see that retrace. I head down for my downstroke, then I'm going to trace back the way I came, up to those dotted lines and around. Now if I have a look at those, I really like that wedge shape I've got in here. This one's a little bit too big. Okay, this one's quite nice. Let's start our row of letter P's. Remembering I'm starting in the middle two lines, so I'm going to begin here. I head down to the bottom dark line for my downstroke, trace up and around. So I'm using the dotted lines to do the oval shape and a dotted line and the solid line to do my downstroke. I go again, down, trace back and around. So ideally, we wouldn't be able to see our trace back line. We want it all to be in exactly the same place. I'm never lifting my pencil. I'm tracing over to go round. Tracing over, going round. Tracing over, going round, and my pencil can stop as soon as it's touched the downstroke line. So I don't need to keep going. Downstroke, up, around, and stop. Keep going to the end of the line. Now today's our practice word. I've chosen the word bump because that way we're avoiding any anti-clockwise circles. Let's begin up on that top solid line. I'm going down for my downstroke, up and around to make my letter B. A letter U, which is like a half tunnel. I feel like we've covered that one already. The letter M, down, up and over, and finishing with that P. remembering it's a tail letter, so it heads down. So when I look at your writing, I really want to make sure that your letter B over here is a tall letter, and your letter P here is a tail letter. Let's try again. Leaving a space, lowercase b, half a tunnel and a downstroke for the U, down, up and over for the M, and P, downstroke and around. You should fit that 2 or 3 more times on your line. Our next word is going to be bicep, which is the muscle inside this part of your arm here. If you're reaching up and scratching your nose, you're using your bicep. So again, we begin with the letter B, down, up and over. The letter I, a body letter with a dot on top. A C. The letter E, remember that begins in the middle, up and around. And the letter P, downstroke, trace over and finish off. Leaving a space before trying again. B, I, C, starting in the middle, up and around for E, down to that solid line at the bottom, up and around for P. Keep going to the end of your line. We've got one line left and we're going to finish with the short word pub. It's somewhere you might go for lunch on the weekend. So let's begin with our letter P, straight down, up and around. Oh, that was a bit wobbly, that one. Then I'm going to go into my letter U and finish with my letter B. Now's a good time to check in and have a look and see if your lines are on the same slope. So I can see here that this line has a nice slope, leaning a little bit to the right, but my letter B is standing up quite tall, and that will make my writing look very messy if I'm not using the same slope on each downstroke. So I'm going to try again, and I'm going to aim to have the same slope for both of my letters. Let's see how I go. I'm getting quite close to the bottom of my screen here, so it does make it a little bit trickier. So starting with my letter P. Nice letter U. And finishing with the B. Good, and I'm going to keep trying to keep that same slope all the way to the end of the line. Once you get to the end of the line, you'll know it's time for a little bit of self-reflection. So grab yourself a different coloured pencil and let's have a look for some of the ones that we've done the best. So I'm beginning looking up on my letter B line. I was quite happy with some of my last ones over here, so I'm going to give those a tick. I like that I can see that good wedge shape in here, but it's not perhaps a bit square like this one, might be a little bit square, or too round like this one. So I'm happy with those two. Looking at my letter P's, again a couple towards the end of my line today I really liked. That one there's pretty good too. I'm happy with all of my bump words. I'll give that line a tick. And perhaps this centre bicep, but down that bottom half of the page, or the bottom line on the page, was a little bit messy. Some of my lines you can see there are a bit too thick because I didn't trace over neatly. This letter U is a little bit wobbly too, so I probably won't tick any of those. Take a moment to tick the best ones on your page. As always, a very big thank you for watching and doing your handwriting today. If you have a little bit of time left, stay tuned in for a guided drawing. This week, instead of a picture, we're going to do a bit of a pattern. And like our other weeks, you are welcome to do this a little bit larger. You don't need to worry about the lines as much. So I'm going to start with a letter P, and this one's going to go straight up and down. I don't really want it to slope. Then I'm going to turn my page a little bit and go on to another letter P, almost as if I'm doing north, south, east and west. So I turn my page again, another letter P, and I turn my page again for the letter P. Then I want to fill in the gaps. So I might choose a different colour so it's a little bit easier to see. My next round of letter P's, I want to fill those spaces. So I'm going to go into the middle and around. In the middle and around. In the middle and around. And I just keep turning my book around to make it easier for me. And I might even fit in a third one there. It'll just depend on how much space you've taken up. Probably took a little bit too much space with that letter P just there, but that's okay, especially if you're working in pencil. Well, now I'm going to finish off with just 4 letter B's. So I wanted to retrace my original letter P just to fill in that bottom section. And fill in that little bit in the middle. I might use a different colour again. And you're done.